So just out of curiosity, have you ever taken any honors classes, any higher learning? Maybe you were in high school, elementary, AP, magnet. Did you ever take anything like that? Because the mayor of New York City thinks all of those people that take classes like that is not fair, and he wants to get rid of it. And I'm going to read a New York Times story that just came out about him wanting to do this with his last 3 months left in New York as the mayor. And I'm going to react to it, and I want to get your thoughts as well. Here's a New York Times story. De Blasio to phase out New York City Gifted and Talented Program. Mayor de Blasio on Friday unveiled a plan to overhaul gifted and talented education in New York City elementary school, calling for sweeping changes to a highly selective program that has been widely criticized for exasperating segregation in the nation's largest school system. Under Mr. de Blasio's plan, released when he has just 3 months left in office, elementary schools who are currently enrolling gifted classes would become the final cohort in the existing program, which means the tests given to kindergarten students to screen for the gifted programs, already suspended in part because the city's advisory school board refused to renew it last year, would become permanently done, would be permanently ended, right? And here's what he says. Here's what his thoughts are, and a couple other thoughts from parents from both sides. Here's his thoughts. I bet you a lot of parents are going to look at this plan and say, this is the reason we're going to stay, says de Blasio in an interview on the radio, adding that for far more children would have the opportunity to receive more accelerated learning than under the existing system. But some families and elected officials who support keeping aspects of the current gifted system sharply disagree with them. Now, this obviously is happening when he wants to run for governor next year because that's his plan. So the last 3 months, he's just getting the last stuff done before next year running for governor. So let me continue with some of the other stuff in this article. It's gifted and talented programs that have contributed to racially segregated classrooms and schools for thousands of students citywide. Interesting. Let me read this one more time. It's the gifted and talented program has contributed to racially segregated classrooms and schools for thousands of students citywide, right? Though about 70% of the roughly 1 million public school students in New York are Black and Latino, so again, out of the 1 million students, 700,000 are Black and Latino, about 75% of the roughly 16,000 in the gifted elementary school classes are white or Asian American, okay? So out of the 1 million, only 1.6% are in the gifted class. 75% of that 1.6% are white or Asian American. Fine. The question I pose is the following. Why? Why is it that maybe 70% of the 1 million that are African American, Latino, and then the people that are in it are white and Asian American? Is it because maybe they value education a little bit more? Maybe. Is it because they're spending money into tutoring? Maybe. Is it because parents are spending time doing homework with their kids? Maybe. Is it because standards are a little bit higher? Maybe. I can tell you from personal experience, as a guy that went to school in the U.S. public school, I've never been to private school. I went to public school from 7th grade to senior in Glendale, California. I went to Wilson Junior High School, 7 through 9, and I went to Glendale High School, 10 through 12. The following year, they changed it 9 through 12, but when I went there, it was 10 through 12. I've never taken an AP class. I've never taken an honors class. I've never taken a magnet class, and I never deserved to get into any of those classes because I never put the effort, because when I came home, nobody expected me to get high grades. There was no level of expectation of me to get any kind of big grades, so I didn't pay attention to it. Nobody sat and did homework with me after school. It wasn't like a thing. Not saying anything to my parents, that wasn't something that they gauged grades on and success on. It never happened. My parents were divorced, and I never went through it. But there were other kids that were part of gifted programs. So should they lower that to make me feel better about myself because maybe my feelings are hurting because I'm not as good as them? Isn't competition a little bit good for the kids? I don't know. Let me continue with the article here. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. So Robin Keller, an elected parent leader in District 2, said Friday that Mr. de Blasio's announcement felt like a political stunt and that the mayor would be leaving a pile of bloody, broken bone fragments for Mr. Adams to clean up, who is about to become the next potential mayor of New York City. But Carla has a completely different position here. Here's what she said. Carla Stanius, a parent in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, said she believed that the gifted programs made it more difficult for children in regular classes to thrive. Why? She says, if we're just dumping a bunch of resources into the gifted and talented, everybody else suffers because they didn't know somebody or they couldn't afford a tutor, right? So her argument is, why are we making the gifted and putting additional programs for them to do better? We should use those resources in a different way. So here's kind of what this looks like. What they're saying is, the ones that are thriving, the ones that are not, let's dumb these down to make this equal. This is what we should do. This is kind of what we should do. It's kind of like saying, hey, LeBron James, he may be the best basketball player in the NBA, and then there's a 12th man. The 12th man on the team never gets a minute to play, but LeBron gets 40 minutes. I think we should lower LeBron's minutes and increase this guy's minutes. So it's not fair because they should play the same amount of minutes. Would you watch the NBA if the 12th man that maybe is not as good in basketball gets the same amount of minutes? How about modeling? How about we get the best models, the best looking models, and let's make it equal. No matter what we do, there are things that you and I are not good at. And if in a gifted program you don't have a standard for kids to be thriving, what ends up taking place? I think to me this is obviously a political stunt that they were talking about, but I think it's bigger than that. Think about if your parents get a divorce, okay? And your father was a father whose standards were high when your mom and dad were together. He expected you to clean your bed. You didn't like it, but he expected you. He expected you to clean. He expected you to wash the car. Maybe he expected you to read your book, do homeworks. And then you had fun with them, but dad had high standards and expectation. Your mom and dad get a divorce. Your mom leaves your dad and goes and marries a new guy named Joey. Joey could care less if you do your homework. Joey could care less if you read books. He doesn't read books. He just watches football at night and has beer. So what happens to you? The standards and expectation keeps dropping. Then what happens? Then all of a sudden, you can get away with anything, right? But at least in this situation, the standard and expectation was somebody believed you were capable of doing more. Sometimes people and kids need an environment just to have someone that thinks you're capable of more. I think you can do more. I think you can do better. I think you can strive to get into magnet. I think you can get into AP. I think you can get into honors. When that standard and expectation is not there, it is what it is. So do we not put the onus on the parents? Should we take the pressure off the parents? Should we take the pressure off single family households that the responsibility needs to be on them? Is it the other kid's fault that the parents are maybe doing the right thing? So the other kid that the parents are doing the right thing should be punished for this? This doesn't make any sense to me at all to do something like this. And I tell you, if I lived in New York City and my kids were in that New York City public program, we would leave in a heartbeat because I would not want to be in a place where my kids don't have something to chase and compete for. You need high expectation for somebody to want to scale and perform to that kind of a level. And the situation, the direction they're going right now, that's not going to be taking place. It's an unfortunate situation. By the way, I'm also a firm believer that there's a group of people that no matter what you ever put in their way, they're still going to find a way to win. You can have a choo-choo train coming their way, they're going to stop the choo-choo train. There are certain people that are too stubborn that no matter what environment you put them, they're going to find a way to get that information. But I think there's also the percentage that needs to be challenged, needs to be pushed, needs to have something to be going for. I think that group, the small group of that 1.6%, this group's going to take a hit. And I hope this program doesn't last a long time and somebody comes back and turns it over and goes back to having a highly gifted program, because America is ran the greatest innovation. I'm looking at this camera here, this light here, this other camera here. This is being done by people that are better at this stuff than I am. America is ran by those who are willing to pay the price slightly more than others. And America, the greatest organizations in America are ran by leaders who have high standards and expectations of their people. The moment those two drop, everybody takes a hit. America's historically been the leader of the world because we've had higher standards than others, and now others are following our standards. We get rid of that, we're going to be in major trouble. Anyways, you may or may not agree with me. If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. If you fully agree with it, subscribe to the channel. But I got another video I want you to watch. Matter of fact, I want it to be 2 videos I want you to watch. One of them is 15 things that school will not teach you. If you've never seen this one, you may want to watch this one. And the other one is every university's worst nightmare. Yes, they're not going to be happy about these types of events taking place. Choose one of them you want to watch. Either way, have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.